Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm the GCSE science teacher, and in today's video we're going to be talking about vaccines, and this is part of the GCSE biology course. So if you do enjoy the video, feel free to give it a like, share it with someone else you think would benefit from learning more, and do feel free to also subscribe, as I do make lots of videos for biology, chemistry and physics GCSE. It's all content which will be helpful for your exam, so do feel free to subscribe so you don't miss any of those. And let's get into it. So normal immune responses occur every day. We are so often bombarded with lots of different pathogens, whether it's a virus, a fungi, bacteria, or even protists. We are inundated around us with the environment we live in. There's loads of different diseases that are essentially in the environment, but our immune system is so amazing that it protects us from this. And one of the ways it does it is through the immune cells that we have. So in a previous video, I talked about the non-specific responses our immune system has, but today we're going to talk about the specific responses that can occur. So this happens specifically with the white blood cells called lymphocytes in our immune system, and they are responsible for creating complementary and specific antibodies that essentially act as markers to the pathogen. Each pathogen, whether it's a virus or a bacteria, they will have a very certain specific shaped antigen on their surface, and this tells the body that that object or that cell is foreign, it is not part of the self, and that's why we need to destroy it. So the antigens on the surface of a pathogen, such as a virus, are specific to that pathogen. So bacteria, there are loads of different strains. We know about E. coli, we know about Salmonella. They are both bacteria, however, they will have their own specific antigen. So there's hundreds and thousands of different types of antigens on the surface. And that's why our lymphocytes work really hard, those white blood cells work really hard to create very specific and complementary antibodies that actually can bind to those specific antigens. So the lymphocytes, like I said, when they bind to that antigen, they will actually cause a triggered immune response. And the phagocytes that work within the blood as well, they are a type of white blood cell I talked about in a previous video. I'll link it for you. They will actually attach to that pathogen and will destroy it through phagocytosis. So those two white blood cells, the phagocytes and the lymphocytes, they actually work in combination. They work together to destroy that pathogen. So it's really clever the way our immune system can actually act. So as you've probably gathered by now, biology has loads of keywords and they often do sound quite similar. So I think it's important that we distinguish between these now. An antigen is a surface protein that's found on pathogens. So whether it's a bacteria, a virus, fungi, or protist, they will all contain different types of antigens that are very specific and unique to the certain strain or the certain version of that pathogen. Those antigens, like I said, they're made of proteins, and that tells the human body that this is not part of the human body. It's not essentially self. We actually call it foreign, meaning that it needs to be destroyed. It doesn't belong in the body and it could potentially cause harm. The antibody, however, although it sounds similar, the antibody is part of our body. We've created this, or our lymphocytes have created this in response to the antigen. And again, the antibody is a protein. It has this Y or V-shaped structure. And at A level, you do need to know a bit more about the structure of antibodies. But at GCSE, not necessarily. Depends what exam board you're on. I can do a short on it if you're interested. Let me know in the comments. But an antibody essentially will attach and bind to the specific antigen on the surface of that pathogen. And that will help the phagocyte to locate that pathogen and destroy it through phagocytosis. Again, those antibodies are created by lymphocytes, but also lymphocytes are super important because they also release and create a substance called an antitoxin. And essentially, this is a chemical that is released in response to, usually and often, bacteria. Bacteria have the ability to release toxins that cause us harm and can actually cause us to feel sick and cause symptoms of disease. But those toxins can be neutralized and reduced in severity by the antitoxin that's released by the lymphocyte. But today's main focus will be on viruses as we're talking about vaccines, but I thought it was important to link those bits of information together. Okay, so what actually are vaccines? Well, they're a type of medication that are often given to people who are vulnerable. So children who are developing their immune system and their immunology. You could also give this to elderly people or people who are immunocompromised, like HIV and AIDS patients, because their immune system is compromised in some way. But vaccines can often be given to other people as well in society, especially with the pandemic. Lots of different people all around different age groups were given the vaccine to prevent the spread of it. But essentially, you want to quote that in your exam, that the vaccines are given to prevent diseases. If someone already has a disease, say measles, which is a viral disease, they don't need to have medication like antibiotics. That's only used to treat bacterial diseases. So in the case of a measles patient, you'd give them some pain relief, some painkillers like such as aspirin or paracetamol to reduce the pain that they are feeling. Also, you may ask them or encourage them to drink more fluids to make them rehydrate as well if they have a fever. The vaccine itself is injected into someone and it contains a dead or weakened version of the pathogen, such as a virus. It's usually a virus in the case of vaccines. And essentially what this does, it triggers an immune response, which we've talked about before. And I'm going to actually show you some graphical data, which you need to be able to interpret and recognize in the exam. Remember that those antigens on the surface of the virus are specific to that virus. So for example, we've got 3 different viruses here. You can see that might be the HIV virus, the influenza virus, and the measles virus. All 3 viruses are different to one another and therefore will require different immune responses in the form of different antibodies being made. And that can often be the reason why some people who are immunocompromised, like HIV patients or people who have acquired AIDS over time, they actually will get different types of viral conditions because they will have different viruses causing different diseases. So it's just something to be aware of. And that is also why not one vaccine can cure all viral diseases. You have to have different ones for different viruses as well. Okay, so this is the vaccine graph that you need to be aware of. The type of data they could give you is to essentially ask you to interpret this data. On the y-axis, you can actually see we've got concentration of antibodies, and this is usually put in an arbitrary unit form, so there may not be a specific concentration. Arbitrary units just means that there's just a general amount of something. And on the x-axis, you can see we have time in days. So there's 2 bits of information of this graph that you need to be aware of. So I've broken it down into point A and point B. So let's start off with point A. At point A, we have the primary response. So this is when the person has been given a vaccine. And you can see, because they've been given the vaccine, they've been given the dead or weakened version of the pathogen. And this causes an immune response, definitely. So lymphocytes will produce some antibodies, and they'll be specific and complementary to that virus. However, the antibodies that are made, there is not a huge amount of them. It takes a bit of time to create them as well. Remember, those lymphocytes have to actually locate and determine what antibodies need to be made. So it takes a bit of time. However, in point B, because the person has already been exposed to the pathogen before, if in the case of the secondary response, the person actually comes across the disease in real life, for example, let's say it's the influenza virus, someone's been given the influenza vaccine, and then someone at work or school, they sneeze in the air and that person breathes in those virus particles, because that person's already been immunized, because they've already been given a weakened version of that pathogen, they actually can create those antibodies much, much quicker and have a rapid response, which you can see from the high level of antibodies that are produced in such a short period of time. The gradient is much, much greater. So as you can see, you'd want to say in the secondary response, there is a faster rate of antibody production. This is due to memory cells. I'll talk about that in a moment. So there's more antibodies that are made that are complementary and specific to that antigen, and they stay in the body for longer. So what do I mean by memory cells? These are a type of white blood cell that actually can utilize the information about the antigen that has previously occurred in the body, and it can help to increase the rate of antibody production moving forward. And that's a really amazing part of our immune system, the ability to recognize antigens that have already been in the body, and they can therefore cause antibodies to be created in a rapid and fast rate. Thank you so much for your time today. I've been the GCSE science teacher and you have been curious. If you did enjoy the video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe. Please do join our community. It's great to have you here. If you do want more GCSE revision from me, whether that's biology, physics, or chemistry, you can find some of my playlists over on this side and my previous videos here. I also do have a social media on Instagram and TikTok where I post lots of revision content as well, lots of helpful hints and tips for GCSE. So if you do want to, I have links for those in my YouTube channel account, so you can click on those links as well. I'll leave links to them below as well for you. And if you do want any specific GCSE content, I know lots of you are going to be doing your mock exams soon, or you are going to be doing your real exams soon if you're in year 11, please do feel free to let me know. Comment down below. I'm more than happy to make tailored content for you. In the meantime, have a great day and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.